It's the Introvert Dating Success Podcast, the show for introverted men that's all about learning how to attract beautiful women and still get your precious alone time. And now, here's your host, dating coach and fellow introvert, Harry Wilmington.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to the Introvert Dating Success Show, courtesy of introvertdatingsuccess.com. I'm your host, as always, Harry Wilmington. This is the show, and that is the website where you can go to learn how to date as your authentic, introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. And on today's show, for those of you that weren't used to hearing my podcast show, I still have a podcast that comes out regularly on iTunes and Spotify and the website. I did a show a while back called Dating in the Coronavirus Age. And that was kind of around the time that it had just started, like in April or so. And I thought I gave some really good insights at the time. And so now here we are a few months later, and it's still going on. And there are people that have been posting up questions and writing things about, still having questions about how this all works. And so on today's show, I want to go over that because there's a guy that I saw on another website that is going through a situation where he has an ex, and now he's just graduated from college and he's wanting to date. And of course, with all the stuff that's going on, he wants to know, A, if that's okay, and also how to navigate that. So I kind of want to talk about that today. As always, for more of these shows, you can go to introvertdatingsuccess.com. We have over 90 shows there that are ready for you to watch. In addition, this show airs right here on protestparty.tv every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So be sure to check us out here. Be sure to check on the stream chat. We'd love to interact with you and answer any questions that you may have during the show. Also go there for some great merchandise as well. If you're looking for any one-on-one coaching, because I know as guys it can be hard to figure out and maneuver this whole dating thing, and I feel like I've got a pretty good grasp on it at this point. So you can go to the website, click on the coaching tab, and we can set up a situation where we can talk to each other about whatever you're going through. If you all have any questions you want answered on the show or want as a topic of one of these shows, you can write to me at harrywilmington@gmail.com. You can also go to the website and click on the contact tab. And while you're at the website, check out my eBooks, check out my programs, check out my free video training. We got a lot of good stuff at the site that is designed to help you be your best introvert self and be able to attract women at the same time. So it's all good. So let's go ahead and get into today's topic. So I'm going to read this post that this guy put, but I kind of edited it a little bit because it was very long worded, and as an introvert, I like things succinct. So for the benefit of you watching, I made it succinct as well, and it goes a little something like this. He says, I recently just graduated college in May, and in early April, my girlfriend of a year and a half broke it off with me because I totally lost frame. For those of you that don't know what frame is, that's basically, for a guy, the positioning that you are an alpha male, or at very least a guy that knows what he's doing when he's dating, meaning he's confident, he's self-assured of himself, it's almost like a leader. And over time, as you start to get more comfortable, but also you start to get more anxious, a lot of those things sometimes can go to the wayside to where you become more anxious. You become seemingly more needy. You start asking her more questions about, are you really happy in the relationship? Is everything okay? You start doing things that take you out of the mindset that she had of you as a potential suitor or a guy that she really liked, and you start coming off as a guy that she needs to get away from. And that's what this guy's saying. He lost his frame. But continuing on, as a result of being an athlete, I was able to do relatively well with women. But now that I'm graduating college, I'm worried that I won't be able to meet any quality women, and obviously the pandemic is not helping this. I really want to meet new women, but am finding it incredibly difficult due to masks being required everywhere, and reading body language and facial expressions is proving very difficult. My question is this a good time to try and meet women? Or should I be more focused on my purpose and making greater strides in that? If I do want to meet women, where can I have better success in terms of location and logistics, and where and when I can meet women? Are people resorting to dating apps now that the in-person/approach element has been limited to an extent? I have been doing no contact for a couple of months now, and I certainly am doing well with the fact that I will never reach out to my ex again and take pride in that. But meeting new women would make this process so much easier because it's not necessarily about my ex anymore. It's more about my anxiety of how difficult meeting women is or will be with the pandemic, and even post-pandemic being graduated from college. So I wanted to point out a few things, and actually somebody in the stream chat over here pointed this out also. Yes, college is by far the best time to be able to have access to women. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best time to date, and that's a whole different show altogether. But overall, you have a abundance of choice. Like you're there's a lot of women there. These days, more women are going to college and staying in college than men are. So the ratio is ridiculous. Like the school I went to, it was like a 1 to 10 ratio. For every one guy, there was like 10 women that were at the campus. Now, that doesn't mean that they were going to date that guy, but they had the access. And I wish that that was talked more about before men went to college, because, or anybody in general before they went to college, because once you get out, it's a different ball game. Like you don't have the same amount of access to the people. Everybody that you might have known on campus is graduating, and most of them are going to be moving away. You're going to probably be moving away to a new city, a new state, getting new types of jobs. And so just, when you're on campus, you have access day to day with people, and now you just don't. So combine that with all that's going on right now, and even people that are in college, admittedly, are going to have a harder time this coming year, because assuming that they don't open up the schools that they're talking about, then it's going to be a lot of Zoom classes and a lot of having to hopefully run into girls in public that want to talk to you, because the days of meeting girls in class right now are very limited. So, but even before the pandemic happened, it was always a hard thing. Like I know when I graduated, I went back home, lived with my mom for a while, and that's it. Like I'm in my city, and most people that graduated from my class don't live in my city. So all those girls that I had, made bonds with and might have had crushes on, I didn't see them anymore. So it was going to be difficult regardless. And when you get out of college, the way in which you date as a guy has to change, because in lieu of having all that access, you have to actually develop traits and characteristics of your personality that are going to allow you to get into conversations. That way, when you do meet women, you're able to create those bonds and try to ideally hold on to them, because you don't know if you'll be able to do that if you don't have regular access to them. So that's the thing about dating out of college. Now, me personally, I did date here and there during college, but I was so anxious, and at the time I was still introverted back then, but I didn't understand why the way I was a hindrance to my dating life, because I was an introvert that thought I needed to be an extrovert to date and get them attracted. And that didn't work for me as well, because I get very exhausted having to be around somebody all the time. So once I figured out how I was as an introvert and how I operate, then I was able to make that transition and make that work in terms of dating stuff a lot easier for myself. Let's see, checking out the super chats over here. Let's see, don't need regular access. And somebody said that's how you start dating people at your job. That's a whole different conversation. Like, because I've done these things. I have dated women for the jobs that I've had, and it gets interesting if it doesn't work out, I'll say, because that's a whole different thing of having to go to work every day and still see them. But yeah, a lot of people do. Like a good portion of relationships these days, I think like 20-30% of people like met the person on their job doing something. And out here in California, I do a lot of freelance stuff. So the times that I'm with people, I do find that those connections are very, very easy to make with women that are around me doing the same freelancing thing that I'm doing. So that is an avenue, but you definitely want to be careful about that. And I'll do a whole show on meeting women on jobs and stuff like that as well. But anyway, but in terms of what's going on now, in terms of meeting women, you could try to go out and meet women in public. But to this guy's point, like he's saying, women are wearing masks now. And so part of a guy, in terms of you being a guy and being able to get a read on a woman to see if she's even interested in the first place, a big part of that is being able to see the bottom of her mouth, because you want to see if she's smiling, if she's frowning when you're talking to her, if she has weird teeth or, odd face. And let's face it, guys, when we're going out to talk to women or meet women, the first thing we notice is their looks. We don't know what their brain's like yet. We don't know if they're a good person or a bad person. All we know is, are they hot or not? And ideally, you can judge a good portion of that based on like from her nose up, like if her eyes are friendly versus guarded and unkind. You can tell for sure, for most part, if you like her body, because even though we're going through a pandemic, most women during the summertime are still wearing, we'll say, interesting clothing that allows you to determine their shape and size, and if that is something that is appealing to you, but you can't see their mouth. And so there can be this hesitation to want to go over to them and talk to them because you don't know if they want to, based on, you can't see the smile, you can't see anything. By the way, if you go to protestparty.tv, or you go through their affiliate, CaliFaceMask.com, they are actually selling face masks like the N95 ones that are really good for you. And I got one a couple weeks ago, and it's been excellent. But anyway, so you're gonna have to start trying to, if you're gonna meet women in public, then you gotta kind of like get past the mask part of things and look at other things that could draw your attention. For example, like I said, looking at her eyes. If you look at a woman and she looks at you and she's not like she's having her eyes look that she's ready to burn a beam through your skull, then you could try to risk going over to talk to her. Now the only problem is, because there's a pandemic going on, most people right now are only really comfortable getting around other people that they know. And so you being a stranger, she's already going to be on alert with people that she knows in terms of, her family and friends. If she's going to invite them over to her house, or if she's going to say, hey, I like you, but we're going to do Zooms from now until this thing's over with because I don't want to risk catching something from you. And that's people that she knows. So imagine you're in the grocery store and you see a woman that you want to talk to. You could risk trying to talk to her, but chances are she's probably going to either be backing away or saying like, hey, 6 feet, buddy, like, what are you doing? So if you're trying to start those kind of conversations, just be mindful that you need to be like 6 to 10 feet away as you're trying to, talk to her in whatever way you think is going to work in order to get her attention, okay? Now that said, there are plenty of people out there that think this is a fluke and that, they're not wearing masks, and I don't personally trust those people, but again, that's something that you could decide on your own. If you want to see somebody that's not wearing a mask and you want to talk to them, that is an avenue you could take. I'm not a doctor, and this is not legal advice. I'm not recommending you do that, but that is an avenue. I've been to Santa Monica up and down, just driving around, and I see plenty of people out there that are walking around without masks, and they're very pretty ladies. So that could be something that you could consider. Again, I wouldn't personally do it, but that is a way to do that. So that is an avenue, but the best way I find that you can actually meet women is through online dating. And I have been an advocate of online dating since back when years ago. I started doing online dating in like 2006, 2007. And especially for a person that's introverted, the best thing about online dating, and I'll do a whole show of this also, but the best thing about online dating is that you get to know, you get to kind of feel out a person before you have to ever talk to them. And I think the biggest hurdle for introverts in the dating world is this thing where you think, okay, the experts are saying I need to go out there and do what's called a cold approach, which is where you see a woman that's a stranger that you don't know, and you just walk up to her and you're supposed to like start spitting some game or whatever and then try to get her interested. Well, for an introvert, that can be very intimidating, because if you're a person that, like me, and you're very analytical, you start going through all these reasons why this is a bad idea. You don't know if she has a boyfriend. You don't know if she has kids. You don't know if she's single. You don't know if she's even heterosexual if you're going that way. You don't know a whole bunch of things about this person, and you don't want to find out, because going up to her and getting that rejection, just the thought of that is just like, no, I cannot have that happen. So that's not typically the avenue that we want to take, but then we're like, okay, so then how can I meet women? Whereas with online dating, there's so many advantages to online dating that are great. But the biggest one is you can have conversations with the person. And even before the conversation, even before you decide to swipe right or decide to reach out to this person, you can look at their profile, you can see their pictures, you can see what their bio is, or whatever kind of comments they put about themselves in the part that says, tell you about myself or whatever. And that makes you feel less intimidated and less anxious, because the hardest part is trying to figure out what that opener should be or what you should say to the person. And they're giving you a litany of stuff on that first page that, if you feel so inclined, you can reach out to them and start a conversation. Now, if you go to introvertdatingsuccess.com, on that very first page, I actually have a free training that you can watch. And it is the 5 types of first messages to send to women on dating apps that attract them and get them to respond. And I put this together because I realize a big hurdle for introverts is not knowing that first thing to say. Like, if she matches up with you, that means, especially if you're on Tinder where they have to swipe right also to match with you, and that means that there's a level of her that's saying, I'm going to give you a shot. But women get loads of people matching with them. Like there are whole videos on YouTube talking about how guys, a good-looking guy that works out, is buff, is muscular, has got his stuff together, might get like 30 matches to every woman's 200. Like women get so many messages that they can't even answer all the messages, which is why a lot of you guys are probably like, well, I swipe on these girls, they don't ever get back to me, or they'll do like 1 or 2 conversation messages and then they'll stop. Well, it's because your message isn't standing out. And there's, again, 200 other guys that she's having to swipe through to decide if she wants to talk to them. So I put this training together because I want you to be a guy that stands out from the crowd and is able to actually like get through all the stuff that she's lining up through to respond to your message and have a conversation, okay? So that free training is available at introvertdatingsuccess.com. You fill out your email, and it takes you right to the video to watch. So do that after this program. But anyway, so yeah, so I just want to go through his message again a bit and try to highlight some things and answer some things. So for starters, he asked the question, he says, should I be more focused on my purpose and making greater strides in that? And my answer is that you should always be focusing on your purpose. Now, this guy, I think he said he was in his like 20s, like 23, 24. So at that age, it's it's 2 things. It's very tempting to want to try to focus on women because you're thinking, I don't want to be single forever. And honestly, part of us thinks that we'll be able to have better success if we have a woman by our side. So you might be focusing on that so much, but what you don't understand is, meanwhile, these women out here, when they see you, their first thought amongst, if you look good or not, is also like, what does he do? What is he into? How's he making money? And this is why if you're focusing so much on them, they typically tend to back off, because if you're focusing on them, it means you're not focusing on the right things. You're not focusing on the things that are going to bring in money, that are going to take you to your next levels of success. And so regardless of how old you are or where you are in your dating journey, or even if you're married, you should always be focusing on your purpose. That should be like the number one thing. And I know Hollywood has made you believe like, oh, you should be focusing, your number one focus should always be on the woman and the family. It's like, well, they can't survive if you're not focusing on your purpose. So as a 24, 23-year-old guy, you just graduated from college. I think this guy said he was an athlete. He was an athlete. He played sports. Chances are you're probably not going to be doing that post-graduation, and especially not in this climate. So you can't really rely on your whole I play sports thing to carry you through with women. So at this point, you now got to find whatever your new purpose is, and you got to start figuring out how to make money at that thing. And the men who focus more on their money and their purpose are the ones that get women. Why? Because women like seeing a guy that is going after something, that has a purpose in life. And women can't be your purpose. Women can be the thing that you add to your life that makes it a little extra something of happiness, but it can't be your full focus. So yeah, if you just graduated, you need to be focusing on however you can get money, whether it's through freelancing, whether it's through geting whatever jobs are currently hiring this day and age, and let that be your focus. Let women see you out in the world doing your thing. And the more you're paying attention to them, and the less you're putting all your focus on women, the more they will come to you. And this is a lesson I learned late in life. Like I was very much, I've studied dating and relationships, and I've been able to figure out various moves to make and how to get better at it. But the real thing that started getting me more success was, I'm gonna do this thing over here. And then this woman over here is looking at me like, hey, I wanna give it to you. I'm like, oh, well, all right then. And what's also been interesting is the few times that I've gotten off of that path since then, it didn't work out. Like I'd be focusing on my purpose, and then I'd realize a girl liked me, and I'd turn my attention to her, and then she would back off. And so it's this weird balance of like, you have to let her know that you see her and she's in your aura, but she's not the most important thing. And that should always be a lesson that you always have in your head in general, regardless of how you're when you're dating. With that said, with all the stuff that's going on, you might be worried about, okay, so on the off chance that I do want to meet women, like, what can I do? Where can I go? What are the logistics? How does that work? How do you plan a date? And I went over this a little bit in the previous version of this that I did for a podcast, but safe to say, now that we're a few months out, I've had some experience dating during this time. And let me tell you, it has been fascinating. It has been absolutely fascinating. So for starters, I met a girl like a month before quarantine started. So this is like back in February, okay? And so quarantine hit. At this point, we'd already been seeing each other, so we didn't stop seeing each other. And I will say this, the nicest thing about dating during this time is that because there's been so many places that have been closed, the only way that you can really bond with a person is to talk with them and hook up. Like real talk. Like I spent a good 5 months just having a really good time. And it didn't cost me any money. We couldn't go anywhere. So but I say this to say that you find out that there's a whole lot of misconceptions about what it takes to attract women to keep around. So as guys, we think that, okay, I got to spend this amount of money. I got to take her on these kind of dates. And I always got to show her a good time. And if I don't do that, then she's not going to. And what I've discovered is that if the woman likes you and has high interest, none of that matters. Like we were doing cheapo picnic dates here and there, and we were like having Netflix parties at each other's places. And we played a lot of Uno. Like we were playing Uno on a consistent basis. And none of that stuff cost money other than like, groceries from the store to make food and some Uno cards. And then there was a lot of hooking up going on, like regular. And so that just made me realize like, oh, like again, all this stuff that guys do, like if the girl's interested, you ain't got to do all that stuff. And especially now when most places are either closed or there's like levels of openings to where some stuff is open more than other stuff. But like with all that stuff happening, and then most people don't even really want to go out like that. So you are able to go on more intimate dates. For those women that don't want to go out, you will find that they like to do a lot of chatting, whether it's Zoom chats or FaceTimes or text messaging, or you can have virtual dates whereby you set up the computer and you guys both agree on a recipe to cook and you're cooking at home and you're sharing laughs and stuff over Zoom, and then you might watch a movie together on Zoom. I've done a lot of like Zoom game nights and Zoom movie nights, and those are things that legit can help you bond with a person, and it don't cost you no money, and you ain't got to go out. So you got to understand that like there's going to be ways that you can connect with people. And the best part, like I said, is it's low cost. And this can help you guys out there that think that you got to spend all this money to impress her. You don't. And the ones that you do have to spend a lot of money on, those aren't women that you probably want to keep around long term anyway. Because if you can't just get along with a person and just talk to them and just be with them and it not have to cost you any money, then unless they're like a hooker from Nevada, you don't need them. And at least hookers, you're paying for the time specifically to do certain things. These women are like, spend money, but then whatever, it's not worth it. So there's definitely ways around this in terms of setting up like in-person dates. I found that you're going to, for one, on the dating apps themselves, you want to sit there and you want to message them a little bit more than you normally would. And I typically tell guys in terms of the messaging game, I'm fast. Like I don't try to spend weeks on end talking to women online. The last girl that I dated during this time, I literally sent her a message that said, "Hey, you're cute." And then the next message was like, "Hey, we should meet up." And she was like, "Okay." And that was the end of the conversation. So it don't take a lot. But with all the stuff that's going on now, you're going to have to match with a lot more girls to whittle down a few that are going to want to message you back and forth. And then you're going to whittle that down to women that will actually agree to meet with you in public. Because not every woman that you talk to is going to agree to meet with you in public. And you know what? That's fine, because some women, they really are about that. I'm not catching anything. So if we're not doing Zoom calls or FaceTimes, then this just ain't going to be a thing. So, and that's something you have to determine for yourself too, if you want to be a person that wants to meet a person in person. Because you could very easily say, hey, I don't want to go out either, so let's just have a Zoom situation until this thing blows over. That said, there might be some of you that feel like if you're not infected, if you've taken the COVID test and your results came back negative, and you feel as though the person you're going to meet up with potentially also doesn't have something. And again, I'm not a doctor. This is not legal advice, so I'm not saying you have to do any of this. But I'm saying is, if you feel inclined to go out and she feels inclined to go out, and that's something you two can determine if that's something you want to do. I went on a date recently that we talked for like a day and a half, and then I kind of on the app made sure there's ways to check to see if that's a person that would want to meet up. You can say things like, hey, so have you gotten out of your house since this whole pandemic thing happened? Like, if so, what have you done? And some women will say, no, I haven't been out at all. I've literally been sitting here watching Netflix. I went out to the grocery store and that was it. Those are women that are not going to leave their house for you. But there are going to be other women that might say things like, well, I've done a few walks here and there, and I've been to the beach, and I did a couple of happy hours when the bars are still open, but now they're closed. I've eaten at a couple of restaurants here and there. That's a woman that's saying, I am cool with going out. And so those are the women that you could then say, okay, great. Well, I'm all down for a social distance date, whether it's we meet at a restaurant and wear our mask, or whether it's going for a walk someplace. A lot of women have pets, so it could be a thing where, like you say, I know she said you have a dog. Why don't we go for like a dog walk sometime, and I can just, walk 6 feet away from you, ha ha ha. And so you position the date like that. Now, when you get in person when you get in person meet one-on-one, at that point, you can decide for yourself if, based on how you feel and how she feels, if you want to be in closer quarters or if you want to keep things at 6 feet. If you do a restaurant date, you want her to sit next to you, or are you guys going to sit across the table from each other? Like, those are things that you can determine. But again, with a person that is willing to go out and do these things. So yeah, this is how you set up those kinds of dates. And you'll find that, surprisingly, there are a lot of women that want to do that. There are a lot of women online right now in general. Like, there's been studies that have shown that the percentage of women that have gotten online for like your Zooms, your Hinges, your OkCupids, your Plenty of Fish, whatever, those numbers have actually shot up since it started. Because there are a lot of women right now at home that are single that are realizing, like, oh, I don't have a boyfriend, and I really miss having some male company. So they're on these platforms. A lot of them are on there just to talk and, do whatever, just to get some attention. But there are a lot of them on there that are like, I just want some male attention, and I want to meet with a guy one-on-one, and I think I can find a great guy now. And so, again, women are going on these platforms in record numbers right now. They're finding guys in there that aren't the highest of quality and don't know what they're doing. And so it's very easy for you to stand out in this climate, especially as an introvert who is going to do his due diligence, because as an introvert, you're going to want to make sure that when you send her a message, that first message, it's something that relates to like getting to know her or diving deep, because we're great about that. So again, if you want more help with that, you can go to introvertdatingsuccess.com and check out the free training, because I really kind of narrowed down 5 of the major things you can send to a woman that'll get them to respond. And it's things that's like it's simple, based on looking on her profile, looking at her bio, kind of getting a feel for what she might be into. Like, all those things are discussed in this particular training. But anyway, so I definitely say it's a good look. And then for this guy in particular, he says the thing about like meeting new women would make the breakup process so much easier. And like, it's more about his anxiety and how difficult it's going to be. Like, honestly, when you're going through a breakup, part of the thing that hurts so much about it, aside from the fact that the person doesn't want to see us, is our ego. Because when a girl says emphatically, I don't want to see you anymore, it can make us feel like we're less than. Like, we're the last person any girl wants to date. We must be complete slime. We're terrible. And it just hurts. It just hurts, and it really hits at our ego. And I'm all about men having things set in place to give them an ego boost, because women do it all the time. Women will go for a spa day, or they'll take all these pictures on Instagram afterwards and post them up to make their ex jealous and feel like they're prettier or something like that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with guys doing that. And I think one of the best ways you can do that, honestly, especially as a guy and as an introvert, is to do online dating. So you put up the right pictures, you put up the right bio, and then you just start swiping and swiping and swiping. And what you'll find is, once you start getting 1 match, and then 2 matches, then 3 matches, and then 4 matches, and then 5, and then 10, and then 15, and now you're talking to 15 women on a platform, you're going to find that gives you a very good ego boost. And it makes you start to realize, like, oh, even though this one girl dumped me, clearly there are these other women out there that are going to be willing to, at the very least, talk to me. Like, we might not end up going on dates, but just seeing the number, just being able to scroll your phone and be like, oh, these 15 and 20 girls like me, that is going to be something that can start the healing process, if you will. And then I also find, too, that like, when you match with a lot of girls, you realize that you have an abundance of choice. And when you have an abundance of choice of women, it allows you to not focus so heavily on one particular girl. Because if this girl over here matches with you and then decides she doesn't want to keep talking to you, well, you got 14 other girls you're talking to. And it allows what I call the feeling of detachment to really enter in. And I think the biggest thing that men need to learn about dating in general is how to be detached to the outcome. Because a lot of men put all their effort and all their energy and all their focus into this one girl that's supposed to be for life. And if it doesn't work out, they completely fall apart. And I've been there. I've been there where, I've been engaged before, and I've been in other long-term relationships where I was just like, this is the end-all be-all. And then when it went away, it was just like, oh, I don't know what to do with myself. Oh my God, how's this? And I found as I've gotten older, the less attached I am to this thing has to work out, or this one person has to be my end all be all, or it's a wrap. A, the better it was for my psyche, and B, the better it was for my dating life in general, because I wasn't doing so many needy things that would scare women away. So yeah, I'd say go on this dating app. It's gonna, or any dating app in general, and put yourself out there. Start putting up a few profiles. Figure out what you need to do with your bio, your picture. Figure out the kind of messages to send to women. Figure out how to ask them out. Figure out what kind of dates to go on. But really, just focus on getting those numbers up. It's cliche to say like dating is a numbers game, but part of the reason that's said is because it's true. The higher your numbers are in terms of who you're trying to attract and who you're trying to match with, the less focused you are, and the better it is to keep your head straight. Because in the course of matching with 10 or 15 women, you're going to look at each one and say, okay, well, this one, our messaging was just kind of okay, so I don't really want to like continue things further with this one. This one over here was really, really hot, but she seems like she might be a little crazy. This one over here, she is like, she seems like she has her head on straight, and she's, look like she's really down to like be in a potential relationship. This one over here just wants to hook up. Might be a thing I want to get into, might not, I'm not sure. But you'll have more balance in yourself versus just like having that one person, oh my God, I have one person, I gotta make it work. And then you just throw so much into it that you scare the person off. So definitely recommend that. And I've been, like I said, I've been a very big advocate of online dating in general. It's just a great thing for introverts to do, because it really does allow you practice. Also, that's another too, with online dating and dating apps, it's like running through a simulator, because I don't think enough guys, especially introverted guys, get a lot of practice in terms of being able to have regular engagements with women. And that can throw them off when they finally do meet a girl that wants to engage with them. And it's all like, what do I say? What do I do? I got to make sure I don't say the wrong thing. I got to make sure I'm not going to chase her off. So I consider online dating also like a virtual simulator, because you can't see the women. So until you actually meet up with them, it is all just virtual. They could be real or bots or whatever, but it gives you a good training ground to practice your communication skills, to practice what messages work, what messages don't. It allows you to, really take the time to learn how to dive deeper into how people are and what they're about and what they like and what they don't like. And you learn how to ask the right kinds of questions, and you learn how the processes of, okay, I said this thing and I tried to ask her out and it didn't work. So what things do I need to say instead that are going to work a lot better? And so, yeah, like get that practice in. And what I found too is a lot of those skills, like when I started doing online and phone app dating a lot heavier, that those skills translated into the real world. So stuff I would practice online with women, I would find that when I did those same things in the real world, it would work. And because I wasn't nervous at this point, because I already had an idea of what to say and how it would work based on the stuff that I had done with women online. So it can only help if you are doing online dating and phone app dating. And I know there's a lot of people out there that say, well, there's just trash online, and you must be desperate if you did. Look, I'm getting action and I'm having a good time with women. I don't see how this is a negative. So especially during a pandemic where you can't really go out as much and meet women in the kind of environment you want to, this is a way to circumvent that and get that happening. So you can be mad at it if you want to, but I'm having a great time. So if you want to have a good time too, then it's definitely an avenue. And like I said, it'll help you get over the X. I won't say fast, because there's still going to be a part of you. Like once you hook up with a person, realistically, there's always going to be a pull there for like, if they just came back around again, it might be on and popping. But it does allow the blow to be a lot less, because there's other things to distract you. And over time, those distractions you will feel a lot better than your situation with your ex did, because you don't want to be with anybody anyway that is pushing you away. Like why guys continue to try to chase after or fix things with women that push them away is beyond me. Like I get it because I've done it, but at this age I'm just kind of like, if she's not trying to see you, why am I going to force myself to make this happen? That just seems like a time waster. So in terms of the whole dating situation during COVID, the short end of it is that, yes, it is possible. Yes, there are women out there that are willing to do this, but you have to kind of like shift through the noise and see which ones are going to be the ones that want to do that. And yeah, like best of luck to this guy, because I know how breakups can be, and I know how dating after college can be. And honestly, especially for men, like dating after college is probably one of the hardest times because you're trying to establish yourself, and most guys aren't quite there yet. And honestly, a lot of women date older guys. Like I've been fortunate to where I've dated women that are like a year or two older than me. I've just recently started dating women that are younger than me, and it's not even that I'm trying. It's just that by way of my age, I'm 38, and women typically look at older dudes now like automatically, like they've already got stuff put together and they already seem sure about themselves. So that more than anything else attracts them. So you being a 23, 24-year-old guy, it might be, even with you're playing sports or you played sports, or you probably work out a lot and you probably have muscles and you probably have a good personality, but just know that post-college, the competition is fierce because these 23, 24-year-old women are looking at like 30, 35, 40-year-old guys. And that's going to be a whole different show I do talking about why that is and how you can circumvent that. But just suffice to say, just starting out, it's going to be hard. So this is a great time really to focus on getting yourself in a good job position, figuring out your money situation. And once you figure out those things, the women will come to you at any age. Like the fight becomes so much less on your end of things because you have your stuff put together. And honestly, like there's no need to feel like you have to get married right away at the age that you're at or be in a serious thing at the age you're at. Like spend your mid-20s to late 20s figuring out that stuff. And when you hit 30, you're good to go. Now, for those guys that are in serious relationships and are already like, well, I mean, I'm already in something like that, like good, keep it going. Like if you're in a relationship in your mid-20s to late 20s and it's going good, then I'm not saying it can't work out. What I'm saying is that typically more often than not, you're more established later on. So it's, in my opinion, it's better to start later on. And I've also noticed just personally that a lot of guys that dated and got married in their mid-20s are divorced now. Why? Because they married the person and they realized, oh, my life's not all the way together. And we fight all the time, in part because my woman's always saying, your life's not together, figure this stuff out. So it really does behoove you to figure out your situation prior to having a serious relationship, because it's going to cause less turmoil in the long run for you and your relationship. Thank you for tuning into today's show. For more of these shows, you can go to introvertdatingsuccess.com, as well as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any other place where podcasts can be found. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like, share, subscribe, and leave your comments below about this episode, as well as what you'd like me to discuss in future episodes. You can also write me with your questions and suggestions at HarryWilmington@gmail.com. Guys, this show is now actually a live show. So if you want to join us on the chat stream, make sure to catch the show live at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at protestparty.tv. In the meantime, if you like my work and you want to show some support, you can go to the website and click on the tip jar tab. You can also go there to check out my 3 ebooks, No Girls For You, Texting Like a Boss, and 10 Steps to Winning Back Your Ex. Lastly, if you're having trouble in your dating life and would like my personal help, go to the website, click on the coaching tab, and we can schedule a coaching session. That's all for now. I'm Harry Wilmington, and I'll catch you all on the next show. I'm out. Peace.